Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing great, amigo. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Just let's not ever do this early again.
Amigo, the memories of you performing at T-Town, dude. I gotta tell you, man, each and every time you would perform at T-Town, it was always slammed. It was a sellout, man. I mean, the excitement was in the air to hear Gary Hobbs.
I'll tell you what, Robert, it was electric. It was the 90s, and and you can say Clinton was in office and the economy was rolling, but so was Tejano music, and the outlets, the resources, the sponsorship with the corporations on a national level, stuff like that. Everything just seemed to fall into place back then. But I remember more than anything those things, the audiences, the T-Town was just electric, really, and I remember we had such success there that it turned into doing a couple of ideas. We did a New Year's Eve there, and we also did that live CD, for EMI Capital back then, and that just went along with the times. It was the place to be, really.
Gary, going back to the beginning in a sense, is the CD, I'm calling it CD, but back in the day it was album, cassette, Las Miradas, the album. Man, dude, that was the greatest hits, man.
I really believe that things are meant to be sometimes, and I'm not saying we're not focused today. We're just caught up with so many different things, and the media, and the resources, and then of course the recordings. With everything that's happening today with the illegal downloading and what have you. But back then everything just clicked for us. Music, songwriters were coming at us right and left, and I was so blessed, Robert, because man, it just seems to been meant to be. We featured about 9-10 songwriters, all of them from Eagle Pass, and so we started looking at their material, and we started making it our own, and change a lyric here or there, a melody here or there, but we had Carmen Ravena, who wrote Las Miradas, and a keyboard player at the time who's passed on since then at a young age, Carlos Castillon, Charlie. He wrote numerous of songs for us, BMI Award songs, and then we started listening to material from other songwriters here in Eagle Pass, Tony Peñalver, Leonel Olivares, and I went out on the limb once, saying something that sounded kind of egotistical, but it really wasn't. When you look at the size of Eagle Pass, and you think of all the other cities and all the other towns, and Laredo, etc., McAllen, they all have rich history and musicians, but I really felt that for the size of the town, Eagle Pass, I thought for a while there, pound for pound, I thought we were really well represented with other groups, other musicians, other singers, other songwriters, and so all of that came, at about the same time, Robert, and it just clicked, and Las Miradas has turned into be sort of like our national anthem. It's such a simple song, but with meaning. And hey, I didn't make it into anything. People made it into a song. So a lot of things clicked for us with Las Miradas, and then it just went on into other songs after other songs. And there's a good list of 12 songs or something like that. That every night wherever we go, somebody's asking for one of those songs, and once in a great while, Robert, will get somebody from the old school, and they'll ask for something from the 80s. I started in 83. I just, May 19th, I just started celebrating our 32nd year, our anniversary in Tejano music, and this is all we've done, Robert, Tejano music. We didn't take off 6 months, and I didn't go to Monterrey to be a producer, and I did not take off another month to do this, and it's all been Tejano music for 32 years, and that's a blessing,
I think that a big thing about your music, Gary, is that a lot of your music has always involved keyboard. Not all of it, but a lot of it. I mean, Gary Hobbs, you think keyboard. A lot of your music has keyboard, which makes it pretty much 100% Tejano, wouldn't you say?
Well, they used to consider, back in the Chicano days, you had to have a horn section mostly because the keyboards weren't that, what's the word I want to use? They really weren't that versatile. You had an organ and then you had a Fender Rhodes. And so a lot of the leads and stuff like that music came from horns or guitar and, or an organ sound. But when it evolved around the 80s, just synthesizers came out and, keyboards are going to be around forever, and nothing against horns because I play trumpet. Well, I used to play trumpet, and I was a horn player, and I mean, but when you mix these days, you mix everything. I mean, there's a collage of things, keyboards and brass and accordion and keyboards with bajo sexto. It's just a nice mix of things that people are coming out with, but we've always been keyboard orientated, and to be honest, as long as God has me on this earth, I think I've been playing piano or trying to learn how to play piano since I was 8 years old, and so keyboards will always be in the center of the circle for us.
Gary, I can remember one time seeing you perform here in San Antonio at Sunken Gardens, and you simply blew me away because I was there in the crowd, and you were playing keyboards. You were playing keyboards and singing. God.
Well, you know what? I think from the Sunken Garden years to now, I've improved a little bit. But Robert, it became sometimes a necessity, and sometimes you lose. Sometimes there's a high changeover of personnel, and sometimes you don't want to see somebody go, and sometimes you just gotta let them go, and things happen. We become a family, and even family members fight, and when we lose a keyboard player, there was a lot of years where I really tormented myself where, man, who am I going to go look for that can play, our music and is willing to play for us and for that kind of pay back in the 80s. And it just came to be where all of a sudden I knew how to play a piano, but it's a little bit different when you got to play, your piano parts and, your strings and your leads. And so, we've tried to always set up our music to be successful as a system, not as a player or not trying to spotlight somebody. So when musicians come in, they need to learn the system and not, we really don't bank on just one position or the song itself. But playing our music is pretty commercial, and there's been a lot of musicians that come here and they think it's so easy to play our music, but it's commercial, but it's not as simple as a lot of people think. But I'm blessed that I learned how to play keyboards in a Tejano band, and so push comes to shove and I need to work, then I hesitate not for a second, and I do what I have to do. But I've been blessed that my mom sent me to piano lessons, Robert, when I was 8 years old, and I was a ball player. I mean, I played a lot of Little League, and so my mom said, either you go to piano lessons or you're not playing Little League, and so my friends would wait for me while I was at piano an hour, and then I'd come out, and then I'd go play, but I'm blessed that my mom sent me to piano lessons, and so there it is. I became a musician. So,
Gary, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but the song "Te Voy a Enseñar," I know you released it on the Te Vas a Acordar CD, but that song had been released before in the 80s, ¿verdad?
Oh yeah, that's a Luis Silva song that came out on the Un Momento CD. A lot of people think that Las Miradas CD was the opening, I guess the opening of doors for us on a broader scale of Tejano radio, but whoever really knows Gary Hobbs and they listen to the Un Momento album from 1988, I think that's one of the most solid projects that we've ever done, and Un Momento was produced by Hector Gutierrez, but it was written completely by Luis Silva, the late Luis Silva, and he was the executive producer. Ralph Barrios was the executive producer. But that Un Momento CD was, it spun off a song, Un Momento, Te voy a enseñar a querer, Quiero ser tu amor, Si lo quisieras. Those songs, we were playing them well into 10 years afterwards. And now in our shows, Robert, I think we still do Te voy a enseñar a querer, and we still do Quiero ser tu amor. But there's two other songs that were very well recorded by the guys, and but that was from the Un Momento CD. But yeah, that had been previously recorded. We'll do those things once in a great while.
You know what, Gary? Me being the DJ at T-Town, I was there from day one to the end, amigo. And let me just say this, and this is true, not because I'm talking to you, but you know, a lot of the people that would come and request music, when we didn't have bands on Thursdays and Sundays, they come and request music. Cuando querían las baladas, your music, your slow music, was requested a lot, dude. I can't tell you, man, Entre Verde y Azul. I mean, that was always requested, man. También, Mentiras. También,
yeah, that still happens. You know, I've just been, again, you know, I can't stress that I've been blessed. You know, I mean, I at every show, I pause for a moment, and I thank God, of course, in Jesus' name. But I thank God publicly for all those people that have supported us, you know, and I mean, it's been 32 years, and you know, I've been blessed that, you know, I can get away with singing a ballad or singing a country song or singing some disco, and so I'm not very one-dimensional, but at the same time, you know, you can't be a singer that can sing just every type of song. One thing is a style, but the other thing is, you know, the delivery and the range on a song and stuff like that. But so, you know, all those, the beautiful thing about that, Robert, is with the exception of Mentiras, you know, which was a Lupita D'Alessio song, you know, an international hit in the 80s. And when I heard it, I just, you know, I just started fooling around like in 83, 84. And I started doing it in sound checks and stuff like that. And one night we just ended up doing, and people just kept requesting it and requesting. And a lot of people think that it is our song, and it's not. It was recorded by Lupita D'Alessio, and I was a huge Lupita D'Alessio fan in the 80s, and I still am, of course. But other than that, you know, Entre Verde y Azul, Enamorado de Ti, a lot of the ballads and things that we do are all original songs. So a lot of songs that we play today are still songs that I wrote. Ámame y Bésame, Tres Rosas, Vas a Pagar. You know, just there's a good 34 songs, something like that I wrote and I recorded, and we still do a good 7, 8 of them on a nightly basis. But it was just a fantastic era, you know, and nothing to take away from today. To be honest, back then there was a top 10 band list of the bands that were circulating and being successful, and some of them, of course, were doing a lot better than others, you know, and there were the international stars and what have you, but you know, 20 years later is something, in a lot of ways, Robert, it's sweeter now because we've stood the test of time, and we still perform 100+ dates a year, and we still we're still hired, and we get to do this. And so it's the bands have been thinning out, and of course music changes. It has to change, you know. There will not be another Little Joe and Ruben, stuff like that from that era, and all those stars from that era, you know, Sonny and El Guti and Carlos Guzman, and you know, and in the 70s, well, there's the breed is still, you know, rolling here and there, but there'll never be more Royal Jesters, stuff like that, and the same thing for the bands from the 80s, you know, the 90s, and you look forward to other bands coming out and bring a little bit of the old and bring a little bit of the new together. But when you have a lot of bands that just coming in with the new, and they want to change, that's sort of like a culture shock, you know. And I don't know if my audience, you know, and a lot of these young artists think that my audience are a bunch of 50 and plus over, and they're mistaken. But Tejano music is something that's already embedded, and so rock and roll still exists, although the numbers are not, it's not like going to see, some of these American artists, American music artists that their music has evolved and changed into something else. But Tejano is very ours, and there's a lot of bands that are still promoting it and providing it,
Gary, on one song, I say you went a different direction. It was totally different at the time. The song called Llegó a Hollywood. Talk to me about the song.
Well, briefly. Song written by Jerry de la Rosa and Balde Muñoz from Fandango. And they had released that song. And that happened the very same thing. Jerry de la Rosa had started working with us. He worked a year or two with us. And this was right before he started up the band with Jay Perez. And of course, they went on to do extraordinary things together, too. But Jerry fooled around with the song at a sound check, and I kind of remember hearing it, and so then I kind of studied a bit, and so there you go. You start practicing it at sound checks, and then all of a sudden it's good enough to attempt at a live gig, and we started doing it, and I think Hollywood really got onto one of the recordings, because you're always like 5-6 songs and you're short a song or two, and shortly after that I just started putting things in the bank. By that I mean in the vault. You have some songs that you like and you keep them, and you get ready for the next CD, and that happened for a long time, where when we did Hollywood, we didn't have a lot of material, and it was good enough to attempt, and we put it on vinyl, or I don't know what it came out on, but we recorded it, and shortly after, we just had a lot of songwriters and people sending us material, including our own stable of songwriters.
Gary, I remember when at the time in the 80s, early 90s, it was Gary Hobbs and the Hot Sauce Band.
Well, no, in 83, it was mid 83 that we went to Hacienda Records, and we started to record our own album there, and we were paying for it, and Brando and I were in the studio and doing some parts. The boys had done their parts, and they had left to go, I guess, to have dinner or something, but we had been there 2 hours, and Hacienda Records offers us a contract. The truth is that it was just when we started playing locally and in the area, it was just a Hot Sauce Band. It's such a I really don't have time to be saying, but the truth is we'd go play billiards and drink on Thursday nights, and we'd always order popcorn, and we'd put a bunch of Louisiana hot sauce on it. And I think we had a gig that Saturday, and we didn't have a name for the band, and Brando said, well, let's just name it Hot Sauce. And I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard, but come Saturday, we were saying Hot Sauce Band. And so, well,
it sounds funny. I thought it was the stupidest thing ever.
Well, I'll tell you what, no offense, but there's a musician, an older musician named Hot Sauce in that San Antonio area, and the next thing you know, we were getting phone calls that we were going to get sued, and because the name of it was Hot Sauce, and because you can't really label that Hot Sauce. It's, there's Louisiana Hot Sauce, and then there's Gary Hobbs Hot Sauce, but at the record label, they wanted to get Brando and us and myself on a contract, and when they threw that first CD out, they see Gary Hobbs and the Hot Sauce Band. So that went on, I guess, I don't know, even the maybe like the first 2-3 CD albums, projects, whatever, but then we dropped the Hot Sauce Band because there was really nobody left from the Hot Sauce Band with us, and practically a new band starting. And other than that, and one CD that EMI Capitol Records threw into Mexico, and promoters down there thought that Gary Hobbs was too gringo, and So they came up with a name. They brainstormed down there. It doesn't tell me much for their brainstorming, but they came up with Gary Hobbs y Grupo Mezquite.
That's right, Mezquite.
And you know, there was just one project that came out con Mezquite. And so even today, Robert, somebody somewhere, you know, and even in a galaxy far, far away, they'll still say de repente Gary Hobbs and the Hot Sauce Band. They'll still say, please welcome Gary Hobbs y Grupo Mezquite. And I guess that marketing back then worked because they'll still say it, pero 30 projects later, there was 2 of them or something like that with Hot Sauce and 1 with Mezquite, but everything else has always been just Gary Hobbs, you know.
Gary Hobbs, thank you so very much for being part of my morning show. Any last words for your fans?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for supporting us and Tejano music in general and Gary Hobbs and those Gary Hobbs supporters and friends. You know, we love you. God bless you. Those Gary Hobbs haters, well, God bless you too. And y'all continue to support Robert Rivas Radio and Tejano music, and we hope to see you very, very soon. Okay, God bless.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.